I'm in. Download Youth Ministry. They have some great 5-minute countdowns. They do a good job.
I would have to. I was using countdowns for a while during worship, but they ended up being like massively large files having to import into our PowerPoint presentation.
Right.
And it was taking like many minutes for the presentation to open or download from our network drive. So my AV guy was like, maybe we could do something different. It's like, yeah, sure we can. Had to mute him anyway because the best part about him was the music, and that would have
Can't have that.
rubbed people the wrong way.
I'm excited. Let's see if I can do this in a tasteful way. Check it out.
Said outdoor.
Like them? Those are outdoor, indoor. Black metal tables with stained oak chairs. And I just bought 8 of them. And they will be here between the 13th and the 18th. And sorry, Pine Tree, if any of my teens are watching, but those couches, we're going to have a ceremonial couch burning out at the Spencer's farm.
So you're going to put another hole in the ozone, huh?
That's right, because, hey, we're in Texas. That's what we do.
What's one more?
What's one more?
It's one.
It's okay, because California, by 2024, is getting rid of all gas-powered lawn equipment. So we can burn a couple couches. They got us covered. Did you not hear that?
I did not hear that.
Yeah, just was announced that they signed a bill that in 2024 they will no longer be able to sell. If you have one, you're grandfathered in, but you'll no longer be able to sell any gas-powered lawn equipment, lawn mowers, chainsaws, all sorts of stuff like that. They'll have to be lithium. I don't know if they have to be lithium, but the batteries that destroy the world more. But
well, I will tell you this: the battery-powered lawnmowers would not cut the grass in my yard.
Oh, I can tell you from firsthand experience that it cut the lawn perfectly in Kansas for me when my lawn was about the 1/5 of the size that it is here. But when we moved to Texas, it took 4 batteries to cut my lawn. 4 batteries, fully charged batteries. So we bought a riding lawnmower.
Yeah, between the size of our yard and just it's thick grass and it's always wet and damp.
Well, and the alligators.
And the gators. Yeah, the
It's
gators
hard to
love
mow over
battery-powered stuff.
a gator with a battery-operated lawnmower.
I rode my gator to work this morning, by the way.
Right on. I was interested how you get the bit in a gator's mouth, but
Very, very carefully.
yeah, or get it out. I guess it's harder to get it out than get it in.
Yeah, no. Once you put it in, it's done for. You're out. It's also a really slow ride because they really take their time. They do.
They can get up to 30, but
in the water.
No, I think on ground. I think
for like 3 steps.
Let's Google it. How fast can a gator run? I think they can run like 30 miles an hour. 20. All right. They can hit 20 mile speed. I can do 20. Well, I used to be able to 20. I could probably do
on
like
a bicycle.
5. Okay. Hippos can run 30. Oh, here's a fun fact for you. Did you know that hippos can't swim? Hippos cannot swim. When they are in the water, their feet are always on the ground.
Yeah.
And so they don't swim, they run on the bottom of the water, but they cannot swim.
You would think, though, with that massive tail that they have, that they would be able to have some like propulsion.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
Well, hey, good morning, everybody. This is Behind the Beards. And here on Behind the Beards, we pull the curtain back, take a look behind the scenes, and do our best to reveal the things that you need to know about your ministers and ministry leaders. I'm Joshua Fowler, a preaching minister in the Louisiana. I was going to say the great state of Louisiana, but I would be doing my Texas folks wrong by saying that. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And my partner, Aaron Partlow, is in Longview, Texas.
That's right. I am. And you know what? I got a little draw this morning because you know what came in the mail? My official Texas driver's license. So it's official.
Right.
So crazy, right?
All right.
So we made an appointment when we moved here, and it took 6 months for me to get to. It's not the DMV. They have a fully separate branch here that does it, and they got these crazy big badges. It's really funny. But anyway, I was kind of bad timing because we're about to leave tomorrow on vacation, and I didn't think about it because they don't give you your Kansas driver's license back. They just give you a printed Texas one, and I was like, I wonder if I can fly with a printed Texas driver's license. But I think I went in on a Thursday. Oh, no, I went on the Tuesday because I missed the podcast. We had to miss a podcast. And I got it the following Thursday. Mm-hmm. They were like 1 to 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, well, I should get it before we fly for sure. But I got it like Thursday on the mail. So it's
nice.
Pretty impressive. But so I am an official Texan. My car is registered. I have my driver's license. My wife has her license in Texas now. So,
how's your Spanish coming?
It's, un poquito. Very, very bad. Very little.
Oh, you need to spend a little more time on your Iglesia de Cristo there and just submerge yourself in the. Do they talk English to you when they talk to you?
My teens or the parents?
The parents and the teens.
Yes, they speak English to me. So with a little Spanish mixed in sometimes.
Yeah,
which is fine. They're helping me through the process, though. I do have very nice teens, and they kind of do help me through the process. And they know that when I ask, like, I'm not asking to be funny. Like, I'm asking because I'm, like, legitimately, like, interested.
Yeah, right.
And stuff like that. So that's nice. That's a different break there. So when I do ask, like, they know that I'm asking sincerely and stuff like that. So. Well, today on the podcast, I am grateful for you guys tuning in. If you're listening in, this is an episode where we just want to spread some positivity. We're going to talk about the good stuff about ministry. I was blessed on a certain day to drive to Tyler and hit up with 2 other youth ministers who then we got in their car and drove the rest of the way out to Rockwall and picked up another youth minister, and we spent the morning. We had breakfast, and then we went and played some Frisbee golf, and we just talked about the pros and the joys of ministry to kind of uplift each other. And, you know, I was sitting in the car with one of them, and I was about to be negative, to be honest. I was about to just, like, do a little, like, self-venting and talk about some frustrations. And before I could get it out, he looked at me and he said, "Man, isn't ministry great?" Like, we just, like, he's like, man, we just, like, I mean, think about it. We were able to just, like, get together with other people in our ministry. We were able to clear our schedule, eat breakfast, and go play Frisbee golf and talk about, like, some positive things going on in our ministry. What other job could you just go and do that? Mm-hmm. Like, we can stay in the bogginess and some of the hard things of ministry, which are some of the stuff that we like to reveal on the show. But I don't want you guys ever to think that we don't like it or don't like our job or anything like that, because I agree. I agree with my brother when he said that, because man, I love ministry, and it is wonderful, and it allows me to have some freedom to do some things, and allows me to work at the hours that are sometimes good for me. Does it sometimes require, 80 plus hours sometimes, some weeks? Yeah. Does it require sometimes working on my vacation? Yeah. But at the end of the day, like, we love it. And so we just wanted to talk about some positive stuff, some good things going on in our ministries. Sometimes they're physical things, sometimes they're spiritual things, sometimes they're, just some, like, getting to see some growth. Sometimes maybe they're just not even related to any ministry that we really do. So that's that kind of idea.
I like it. I like that God puts people in your lives right at the very moment where you probably need them to ask some of the most, or to make some of the most innocent seeming comments. And so maybe I just give people a caution here for a moment to be aware of your words. Because you never know the power that your words will have over people. In Hebrews, he talks about, taking every moment kind of not for granted, how often we have entertained angels unaware.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways that we affect people, hopefully for the better. And they can go either way, though. Sometimes we can push people into we can affect them negatively, but hopefully more often than not, we're affecting them positively by the words that we choose. And someone just saying, "Hey, isn't it good that we're here?" I have the same kind of experience. The flexibility that my schedule has allows me to do some things that a lot of people aren't able to do.
Right.
Our schools here in Baton Rouge, all of their football and basketball games are right after school at 2:40 in the afternoon.
Wow.
And
that must be hard for parents to get to.
Well, it is, but it's even harder for them to get them back to the school at 6:00 for an evening game.
I bet.
Because a lot of the kids in East Baton Rouge Parish aren't going home to parents who are at home. Mm-hmm. They're going home, and they either have a grandparent or someone there. Some of them are just, kind of on their own there for a few hours in the evening. And so the bus can get them home, but they have no way of getting back. And so the coach is like, well, if we send them home at 2:30 when school's out, we're not getting them back for the game in the evening. So they just play them right after, which makes it really hard to find officials to call those games who are working regular jobs. And so having a leadership that has said, hey, as long as things are getting done, we understand that this is kind of one aspect of your outreach into the community. And they understand the impact it has on my mental health as well. Ironic, isn't it, that I got to go get yelled at by a bunch of strangers in order to feel mentally healthy?
It's probably not where I would go for that mental health, but I mean, good for you.
But just having that freedom to make sure the work is done, everything's taken care of, but also able to kind of rearrange a schedule to accommodate things that helps my community. Get to meet some kids and some families and parents, especially now that I've been there for a few years. The coaches know what I do, and a lot of them will call me pastor or reverend when I walk in the gym or on the football field.
And you correct them and say, "No, I'm a minister."
Oh yeah, absolutely, because that matters so much.
Right? Yeah. Just making sure.
Yeah. And so it's just, man, it is a really cool thing, and it is one of the aspects of ministry. I would never stop serving the kingdom, no matter what I was doing.
Yeah.
But one of the things that keeps me in formal ministry is that ability to, just that flexibility that we have, and it enables me to do things that I just wasn't able to do before. And I think it's probably something we take for granted as well.
I think so too. I think we totally do. And I was talking to somebody. Who was it? I cannot remember. But they were telling me this story. They were like, They're like, I had a friend who he was a youth minister for like 5 or 6 years, and he said, man, who has it really good? Teachers. They have clock in, you clock out, you get holidays off, and you have summers off. And he got a job. He got a job teaching Bible at a Christian high school. And he said, like, half a year into the job, his friend was like, don't ever leave youth ministry. He's like, you have it so good. He says you have flexible hours. You can take those breaks that you need to get stuff done. And what I was thinking about it as well was like, there's this concept, or this was something that I was just thinking off the cuff, right? Is, when does my personal ministry, when does my outreach, also blend with my job outreach? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because there's things that I do that is like, hey, I consider this like my ministry. Like this is, if I wasn't a youth minister, I would still be doing this. But then there are definitely things that, like, because I'm a youth minister, I do this kind of ministry as well. And so, I don't know if we want to talk about that, but I was just thinking about, like, what's those differences and how do those bleed over, and that kind of stuff. Because you were just talking about reffing, and you would probably, if you were still working, you might find yourself still reffing and using that as an outreach.
Oh, absolutely.
Of some sort. It would have to look different because you'd be working a normal 9-to-5 job. I almost said 5 to 9. That sounds terrible.
That does sound terrible, but that's probably more like normal, though.
That is probably more like normal.
No, I think
that's what you
it
were
would be good
working
to talk about. Maybe that's a good podcast episode that we can throw in there.
Working the 9 to 5 instead of the 5 to 9, or working the boy.
No, I mean, when does your personal outreach blend with your professional one?
That's better.
We're talking about good things. What's good. In ministry right now. The flexibility, is good. I love that aspect of it. One of the things that is really good for me right now is getting to be a part of like a deep part of so many of the important things that go on in people's lives.
Oh yeah. Totally.
We have and sometimes it is a burden to bear. But when someone comes to you and says, look, I'm going through this, whether it's a disease or an illness or a surgery that's upcoming, there are some details that they really just don't want to be public.
Right.
But they'll come and they'll say, I want you to know this because I want you to know what I'm going through.
Yeah.
But if, the prayer list could be a little more generic, I'd appreciate it because I just don't want to field all the questions.
Mm-hmm.
But to be someone who is allowed in on the very intimate nature of the lives of the people that we serve, it's just one of those things that is, I'm sure it's a huge responsibility. But at the same time, you get to see them in their greatest moments of joy and in some of their most difficult moments of trial and sometimes even grief and mourning. Weddings, baby celebrations, funerals, surgeries. Through the last year and a half, we've not been able to be as connected as we were. COVID had weddings, in small locations with 3 or 4 people. But I was one of those people,
right?
Who was there, who represented a whole church full of people. And then seeing that kind of beginning to come back to normal and remembering, man, how much we took some of those things for granted. And that's just been a really, really, really cool realization for me over the last 3 or 4 months anyway.
One of the good things that's going for me is, and one of my favorite things is I would agree with you, and I love that. I love being a part and being included in that. My favorite is working with a vast amount of people. And when you're overseeing a ministry and you're helping and seeing all these different people pour into this one project, right?
Right.
We recently are redoing our hub for our youth room for our teenagers. And I've had to do a lot of painting And if you know me, you know how much I hate painting. Like, I hate painting. But I'm good at it. Like, I'll be honest, like, I'm really good at painting. Maybe that's what I would do and I would hate my job, but I am really good at it. I'm one of the guys that can get that brush and I don't have to tape, and I can paint that straight line, right up on the edge, and like it won't get over. Like, it's not hard to do, to be honest. You just have to have patience and concentration and pay attention. But
that's
I can
hard for
do
me
that.
to do. You said patience, and that's not easy for me to do.
Right? It's not hard to do, and I hate painting. However, what I love so much about this youth room is that I've had 3 work days to paint it, and I've had 3 different groups of teenagers that have shown up. That's awesome, and that's fun. I've also had different parents. I had a group of parents the first day who was going to get there and do one project and leave. And he saw how much work we had to do, and so he started doing some extra jobs, and he called his wife and his 2 kids, and then they came up, and they were there the entire day. They were there the entire Saturday. As long as Lauren and I were there, they were there. And he's a construction worker, a carpenter by trade, and so
Nice.
he fixed our stage. He did he just did like a whole bunch of these other projects that needed to get done. And she's a really good painter, and so she was helping overseeing some of those tight spots in painting and stuff. And it just made the day like so much fun. I got to know them, and I appreciate all the work that they've done and that they helped. And now we're about to go on vacation, and some of the final projects are going to get done in our hub. And I'm excited that, I have some people that I can trust that are just like, yeah, we will do it. We'll get it done. And like, for me, like having those big projects where you see so many different people pour into it and put their heart into it is really exciting, and really a great moment for me in ministry. So I love that. So it doesn't matter if it's redoing a youth room, or if it's putting together a trunk or treat for the community or something like that. I love to see all the different people with different personalities and different work styles and different leadership styles come together and work. Also, I laugh at that, Jonathan, because I'm the guy who I really don't like get paint on my clothes. I have a pair of shorts and a shirt that I call my paint shirt, and there's one little thing of paint on my shirt and one little thing of paint on my shorts. And Lauren's like, "Those your paint clothes? There's like no paint on them." And I'm like, "Yeah, I get paint on the wall, not on me." And I'm a little OCD because I do try to teach my teens. I'm like, "Hey, paint's supposed to be on the brush, not on the back end of the brush here. Do it this way. You have this." I buy them the nice tools. They sell those like red cups that you can put on your hand, and
Yep.
it actually has a magnet in it. So if you want your brush, you can set it on there, and it has a magnet. So it's just, you did not understand the assignment. That's right.
Yeah.
I've seen your TikToks. Get out of here.
Well, there is something really encouraging when people show up, and show up ready to do something. There's an even greater sense of encouragement when they show up ready to do something, recognize what actually needs to be done, and then don't slowly fade into the background and disappear.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely nice.
But take charge. That's not that, we expect it. Certainly we're always up for the help. I'm not always good at receiving help. And sometimes what I need is someone to recognize what needs to be done and kind of tell me what they're going to come and do, because they see what needs to be done that they can do.
Right.
Instead of saying, "How can I help?" Like, man, I don't really know, because I don't know how to give you kind of an assignment or a task, especially if you're just getting to know people. And so when someone walks up and just has that initiative of recognizing a need and then fills it and says, "Hey, by the way, I see this needs to be done. I'm going to go ahead and take care of this for you. This is going to be one more thing off your plate."
Yeah.
Because it forces me to do 2 things. Forces me to, number one, you've brought it to me in such a way that I really can't turn you down.
Right?
And then it forces me to take the kind of stance of humility that God really asks of me, and says, you know what, you've got to let this go, and this is less work for you to do in the next few weeks, and this is more buy-in from the people that are around you. And this is going to be good in the long run. And so it's so rewarding when people come up.
It's so rewarding when you get to witness those beautiful moments in ministry as well. Right? I feel like
absolutely.
we get to witness some of the most beautiful Christian moments. We get to witness a lot of very unchristian moments as well. I was talking with somebody, and by the way, I know who I'm talking about. I say somebody because I don't want to mention names. But we were talking, like, so everyone's like, man, Aaron never knows who he's talking about. I do. I just don't want to tell you. But we were talking about, like, you know, sometimes, like, we can get, like, really mean emails or text messages or something in our job. And I had made a joke. I said, you know, what if we took all of those emails and we took all the names out and we printed them and we posted them, and you did a sermon series about, you know, how do we actually carry ourselves, you know, and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was kind of interesting. I just want to put that out there. I don't really want to talk about it. I just wanted to say it out loud. Because, like, when we're faced, like, it's kind of like that if we look ourselves in the mirror and we go, ooh, did I really say that? Did I really send that email? Did I really talk to that person demeaning and in that way? It'd be interesting. But what I wanted to say was we get to witness these beautiful ministry moments, right? Mm-hmm. I was an intern at the Southwest Church of Christ in Tigard, Oregon, and this moment has been scarred into my brain of the true generosity of some people. They used to have this amazing ministry called The Breakfast. And that was a cool title, right? Just The Breakfast. They offered breakfast, and they fed over 2,000 kids every Tuesday morning at their church. There's something that happened with their schedule where the buses would drop the kids off, and they had an hour before school started, and they had to just stay in the cafeteria. So they worked it out with the school that the kids could walk up to the church and eat breakfast. And so they provided first-class breakfast. Fresh pancakes or fresh waffles, real cracked eggs for scrambled eggs, and bacon and sausage. And they provided it. And that was called The Breakfast. No strings attached. Just sign in. That's all they wanted to do. They just wanted you to sign in. Only your name. No emails, no phones, no nothing. Just sign your name so that we can just really have an accurate count on numbers. And so in this, there was a lot of ministry opportunities, right? And so there was one moment where Jeff, the youth minister there, was talking with this teen. His parents were going through a divorce. He was really sad. He was starting to go to youth group. He was enjoying it. There was no way that they could afford going to Camp Yamhill, going to church camp that summer. And this is the craziest thing, is I'm standing there in this conversation because I want to know what Jeff's going to say. Obviously, Jeff's going to be like, hey, we can cover you with the youth budget. If you want to go, you're going to go. Like, I knew that's what Jeff was going to say. That's what I would have said. That's what any youth minister probably would say in those moments. And so as he's talking to him and telling his story, there is this lady who is part of the breakfast crew, who her whole job is just to restock or is to wipe off the syrup table, while kids are going through. They try to keep it clean because you got 2,000 kids going through, and it's crazy, and they're messy. Mm-hmm. She just overhears this conversation. She goes back to the kitchen. She writes a check, and she comes back and hands it to Jeff. And she says, I don't know who that young boy is, but here's a check. If you'll just fill in the amount and let me know how much it is for him to go to camp, I will sponsor him to go to camp, and let me know if you need any more money for him. And then she walked away. And that was it. And I know, like, a lot of times we can be like, oh, well, all she did was write a check. That's just money ministry. They're just giving money. But if you were in that moment, you would understand that this woman just heard that there was a need. And she went, I can fulfill that. I can serve. I can do that. Wrote this check. Doesn't know anything about this kid. Mm-hmm. And just said, I will send him awesome. Because I know that church camp is powerful. Well, The kid keeps studying. This is like Goosebumps, okay? The kid gets baptized at church camp. Which is, by the way, like 3, 4, 5 months away from when this moment at the breakfast happened. His parents start going to church and nullify their divorce. Because they saw a change in their son, and so they thought, well, maybe it would be good for us if we start going to church. They start going to church. They get connected. So on the day of his baptism, after he comes up from the water and they give him a big hug, they say, oh, hey, by the way, we're not getting a divorce. And again, another moment where I got to witness on the shores of Camp Yamhills River, and I was just like, what? Wow. What just happened? And it's like moments like that. And I guess, like, when people ask me, like, Aaron, how do you make it through youth ministry? Because, you know, there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of junk, there's a lot of crud out there. And I said, you know, it just takes, like, I recognize and I understand, and I love those passages where the scripture says, man, when someone gets saved, those angels are rejoicing in heaven. And I'm like, that energy carries me. That energy carries me. This happened, like, what? I've been in youth ministry 10 years, so that was like 11 years ago. That energy carries me today. And there's been many more up to that and past that. But those moments, they carry you. And that's such a beautiful, and I would never have gotten to experience that if I wasn't in youth ministry or if I wasn't that intern that summer. And that was powerful.
Yeah. Just the ability to, or the privilege of being able to eavesdrop in those moments. You know, it gives you some insight, not just into the lives of people, but into the way God works in the lives of people. You know, because it's not just about knowing things about people that other people don't know.
Yeah.
It's about seeing the way God, through his Spirit and through his people, really move and transform lives. And, you know, it's not just transforming them from, you know, drug addicts to, you know, faithful members of the community. Sometimes it's transforming them from people who don't have a good sense of self-image, and they start learning to see themselves through the eyes of a Savior who gave his life on the cross for them. Sometimes it's about a married couple able to see the way God works through a church and the way the church deals with their son, and their life is then changed because of that. You know, so just seeing the way through the average everyday flow and ebb of life, people begin to be transformed by other people who are doing God's work, and being able to see that process transpire is really, really cool. You know, our church right now, you know, one of these days we're going to stop, you know, comparing pre and post COVID kind of stuff, but
not today.
Well, and I'm not going to.
One of those things. We'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll start that tomorrow. Yeah. Procrastinators unite tomorrow. But I'll tell you, there is a vibrance that is coming on the heels of a community restored, and it's been so rewarding for me to see some of our young families, some of them who have been gone 10 years or more, starting to come back to church. And that has a lot to do with some other things that are going on in the church communities here. But I've had some one-on-one conversations with some people who left here between 10 and 15 years ago who said, I'll never darken the doors of that building again.
Right. And
there were two of those families who were here our first Sunday back after our COVID, you know, ban, if you will, or our COVID hiatus. Right. And, you know, one of them has been back since, one of them has not. But he was here. and just the willingness and seeing the way God is working in the church to bring people, families back together.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had a lot of families that were divided. Kids who were gone somewhere else. You had grandparents that weren't worshiping with their children or their grandkids. And seeing that demographic of our body here kind of come back home has been something that, it gives you that energy. It says, okay, I can endure a lot now that I see grandma getting to hold their grandkids in their lap while they're worshiping.
Right. Yeah.
And some things they haven't been able to do for a while. That's a really, really good thing to see. And it's good for our future as well.
When we can stop and see the bigger picture, those are those moments that are just beautiful. And it goes for if you're in ministry, and it goes for when you're working in church. It amazes me how much I teach and I need to listen to my own teachings, right? Because how many devotionals, how many lessons have I taught about pausing? Pausing and taking that moment and listening for God. It'll help you with your reaction. It'll help you with what you're going to say, what you're going to do, sleep on it, all that kind of stuff. We take those moments to pause. And how many moments, and when I say that, I always think, well, yeah, I need to pause. Like if I'm going to be frustrated, pause, think it through, try to see things from but sometimes I just need to pause and look for the bigger picture. Look for the bigger picture where God's working and what he's doing. Maybe there's something through this that I'm not seeing, like, hey, maybe I'm frustrated about this, but maybe there's a bigger picture there. Maybe there is, something else going on. It reminds me of, I love those videos. I would never want to do one. It sounds terrible, but I love that art that like you look at and you're like, what is that? It's like chewing gum, or it's like a Rubik's Cube. And then they zoom out and it becomes like this really cool picture. And I'm like, whoa, that must have taken forever. That's a waste of time. But I think it's like really cool. I do think it's really cool. I make those cracks, but I do think they're really cool and interesting. But I think like sometimes I need to listen. I need to do that. I need to pause and think and look at the bigger picture. Sometimes I just need to have a little bit more chill. Also,
right.
Like there's a lot of times where you just need to have that go with the flow kind of mentality. And maybe my ministry is not going the exact way I want it, but it's going. So there's the positive, right? Like it's going.
Right.
And I don't think my ministry is ever going to be perfect. It's never going to be exactly the way that I wish it could be. But that's probably a good thing, because when I wish that it would be the way I wanted it to be, there's a whole lot of I statements there.
Right. No, you're right. Big picture is really important.
And if you look at the New Testament, when has ministry ever gone the way that they wanted it to go? That's what I was getting at. Like we were just looking at Thessalonians at church, and Paul says like over and over, I want to come see you, but Satan is blocking my way, and I'm having to go and do all these different things. Right. And you think like in the New Testament, how often like did things go the way that they wanted it to go? But God was like, nah, we're going to do this. Whee! And they're
Surprise.
all over the place. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's always curious.
Well, the other thing that I'm kind of really excited about is seeing some of our community things coming back.
Yeah.
We are, for the last 3 or 4 years, we've worked with this elementary school across the street. And, for the last 2 school years, we've kind of not been allowed to do much there. And so getting to go back and serve the faculty and staff of Audubon Elementary is really cool.
That is awesome.
It's a connection that we made that was really, really encouraging for them. And one of the things that one of my more perceptive people said the first time when I got a list of the faculty, she said, you need to ask for a list of faculty and staff. We don't want to. We want to make sure we get all the cafeteria workers, all the janitorial staff, anyone that sets foot in that building. We want to make sure they're covered. And they made little cups with their names on them.
Wow.
And that was really cool because some of them had names that you can't find if you go to the kiosk. They're never spelled correctly. So for them to have a cup
I
that
get
has
that
their name
a lot with Aaron.
with Aaron, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
two
never
A's.
anywhere, right?
Never find it.
And you never find it because it's always sold out, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's actually why.
And so that was really cool, and also just to see them understanding that someone in the community is recognizing the work that they're doing for the kids of our community.
Right.
They go so far out of their way to care for the kids. For someone to take the time to really acknowledge what they do goes a really long way. And so to have that relationship restored again is really good to see. And just the interaction that's coming back with the folks in our community as well. There's some good, some bad. I realize I really like my space. Like if I'm standing in line in the grocery store now and someone kind of walks up behind me, I'm like, dude, you in a hurry? Go ahead in front of me.
Right.
Like, why are you standing so close?
Stop breathing on me.
Living in this 6-foot bubble has given me a better awareness of people's personal space, and I'm really aware when mine is invaded now. So
yeah, it is amazing. Like even now, yeah, if I go and I'm waiting in line, I am quite a good distance away from the person in front of me, and it is because that's the way COVID has trained me, but also because I'm like, well, I don't want somebody being like that close to me. So
yeah, and I'm that far away from them, and I'm not afraid somebody's going to cut in front of me in line.
Right? Yeah. They're like, oh, you weren't in line. You were like 6 feet back. Yeah, that's the norm now.
Not the same in a car, but oh man, you got anything else today? I've liked this episode, man. I don't think on the podcast we do, but I think in life we have a tendency to dwell so much on what's wrong and what needs to be fixed. That I think it's really, really a positive thing to dwell on the good things that are going on. So
I think
good
so too.
idea.
I think we need to celebrate some more of the good things, and we give that praise and that grace and all of that to God. And God is doing good things, and a lot of times I forget how good God is and all the good things that He's doing. There's a lot of hurt in this world, right? There's a lot of negativity, and it's easy to focus on that. But there's a lot of good things that are going on. There are a lot of good things that are being fixed. There are a lot of good things that are happening. And, God is moving and working, and he might be working in a different way than we are used to, but he is working.
Definitely working in a different way.
He is working, and he is doing good. So I want to remind you of Galatians 6:9. Do not grow weary in doing good. That is kind of like our motto here. And that's why we do the podcast, to be honest. We do the podcast because we don't want to grow weary in doing good, right? We want to take this to heart, and this is kind of like an uplift for Josh and I to be able to do this. So we appreciate your support. We appreciate you being here. And we want to remind you to not grow weary in doing good as well. This life is messy. This world is messy. So allow Christ to use you to do something different. I'm Aaron, and this is Josh. And we will see you next week from Oregon on Behind the Beards.
One of us will be in Oregon. One of us will not. Yeah.
One of us will.
We're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
One of us will what? I cut you off.
I said one of us will have to get up early.
Oh, yeah, real early.
We were all growing a beard. Oh, I thought you were going to do it again. Double exit.
Yeah, we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
That's a good ending. That was a good ending.
Should I do it again? I mean, because I really do want some facial hair. I really want my association to submit. I think I need to find I
need to get this one
religious exemption
spot
for our required shaved face. I'm going to file that. Say, look, I'm a public speaker for a profession, and I can't do my job with a shaved face.
They'd be like, well, that's okay. You can find a replacement. I actually have this beard comb that I use just for the show, so that I looked more groomed.
Yeah.
But I have that one.
Is
really
it bamboo?
No,
I know they have that one really fluffy spot.
It's just a
Plastic.
orange plastic comb.
You need the bamboo one. I think you need some oil too. Do you use like a good beard treatment?
I don't use a beard. I have a conditioner that I use, and that's about it. I don't use a oil.
Jonathan just said, y'all are still live. I'm like, yeah, this is the post-show extra, man.
Yeah, you pay
is where the
extra.
magic
You
really
pay
happens.
extra for this. Now, if you were cool enough to be on the pre-show, that's where the real good conversations happen. And one day we will have a pre-show. No, well, we don't need the ukulele.
Oh, the pre-show.
Yeah, you don't need the ukulele when you've got that awesome song that we don't have rights to.
The excavator. Yeah, right. Can't do that.
But we can only play that much of it. Otherwise, we have to play copyrights.
That's right. I'm still waiting on the beards to get back to me.
Yeah.
So I can send them.
It probably won't be until we get rich, and then they'll be like, "Oh, excuse me."
Well, so they're a band out of Australia, and when I sent
thought it was
them
New
the
Zealand.
email, I think you're right. I think it was New Zealand.
Okay.
And so when I sent it off, they were like, the automatic reply was, "We check this email about once every 2 years, so don't expect a reply anytime soon."
Hey, we are coming up on our... How awesome would it be if they turned out to be Christians and then they were like, what? And then they came on the show.
That would be awesome. Judging from the lyrics of some of their other songs, I don't think that's the case.
Well,
However,
maybe they wrote their other songs before they became Christians.
you're right. Because we had done a podcast on good things, so we're going to stick with the good.
Yeah.
That's right. Good
Do
job.
y'all know you're still live? That's funny. What?
What? All right, man.
All right.
Later.
Goodbye, Facebook.
If Bieber changed anyone.